I want to go straight to this part of this report saying that one of the people who's indicted, the name is still redacted and what the crime is, the accusation is redacted. Why would that be?
Thanks for having me, Lawrence. What I would probably say here is that the person has not been apprehended and the government doesn't trust these folks, right? The indictment reeks of people that really don't respect the government, don't really want the government to operate the way it does. The law enforcement authorities are typically pretty paranoid in normal cases. So in a case like this, before they've apprehended the person, they just don't want to signal who it is. So that's why they've probably redacted it in this case.
So a federal prosecutor, your old job today, told the court that they're in what they called very preliminary plea discussions with at least some of these accused co-conspirators in the 16. What does very preliminary mean?
It means they don't want to be bound by it. It just means they're starting to talk to the defense lawyers. You know, it's a very common thing in the criminal justice system for lawyers to talk to each other. You know, hey, what's this all about? What do you have? How tough is, how strong are the charges? What are you looking for? How much time, et cetera? So you have these kind of discussions. Maybe it's not quite so stylized as on Law and Order, but you do have these kind of discussions between prosecutors and defense lawyers. So that it simply means that they're having preliminary discussions. You should know that, the prosecutors want this case to be resolved by guilty plea, right? They'd rather not try it because the logistics would be pretty nightmarish to try 16 people at once, which the judge in today's case noticed and commented on.
But it becomes a little bit more manageable if some of them become witnesses for the prosecution. That reduces your active defendant count in the trial, and it also provides you with usually pretty damning evidence.
There's nothing prosecutors like more than when people, so-called flip. So, yeah, I mean, the evidence is already pretty damning in this case. It seems like a pretty strong case against the charged defendants, but they're always looking for someone to be able to get up on the witness stand to explain in a narrative exactly what happened, how did this all come together. And let's not forget, there are uncharged co-conspirators who are mentioned in the indictment by pseudonyms. And we, of course, know that there are folks out there who run the Oath Keepers who have not been charged. So any cooperator that might decide to plead guilty and be a government witness out of this indictment could well lead to other charges against other people, not just these folks.
Yes, and one of those people who faces that kind of danger is named Stuart Rhodes, who's identified in some of these filings as person one. And they quote him, prosecutors quote him in one of these filings saying this: I do want some Oath Keepers to stay on the outside, to stay fully armed and prepared to go in armed if they have to. So our posture is going to be that we're posted outside of D.C., awaiting the president's orders. We hope he will give us the orders. We want him to declare an insurrection and to call us up as the militia. Dan, I'm struck by the fact that they were so afraid of Washington, D.C.'s gun control laws that they were staying outside of Washington, D.C. with their guns, but then waiting for this president to actually say publicly, yes, this is an insurrection, and I need you to get in there with your guns, in effect.
I mean, it's another good reason why it would be nice to have a bipartisan January 6th commission, right? I mean, we really need to get to the bottom of what kind of communication there was here. But, him saying that, it's a very interesting statement. There are other statements in the indictment by him and by others. This is a strong case of people who were, in a premeditated way, trying to obstruct the ultimate justice. I handled a lot of obstruction of justice cases as a prosecutor, but it was always grand juries or trials or federal investigations. This is obstructing the pinnacle of democracy, and it's charged in an actual indictment with stopping the count of the presidential electoral votes. So this is the pinnacle of obstruction of justice. It's makes me wish I were back in the department. It's a very interesting case.